There's been a fair amount of reporting on the benefits of artificial intelligence, but according to one expert, 40% of the world's jobs will be replaced ultimately by technology.
Presidential hopeful Andrew Yang takes his potential threat very seriously. He's proposing a universal basic income program to alleviate the strain on workers, but would the costs outweigh the benefits? Joining us via Skype with his take is Patrick Bet-David, author and creator of Valuetainment. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Patrick, I mean, I know that you've spoken a little bit about AI and universal basic income, particularly versus a negative income tax. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, so look, eventually we may get there. Eventually we may get there. And I know a lot of times you'll hear Andrew Yang talk about and compare it to what Richard Nixon wanted to do or Milton Friedman and the difference between UBI and negative income tax. But here's the basic premise behind this if you think about it. What we are saying with UBI and the fear of AI, it's a very good marketing campaign because they say fear sharpens listening. So the more the consumer is afraid, the more we're willing to listen to somebody come up with the idea of saying AI is going to take over the world. The reality is just 100 years ago, we went to work on a horse. We didn't go to work on a car. And, we didn't have the internet just 50 years ago. I mean, 30 years ago, we weren't using AOL chat. AOL chat came in the late 90s, and today with social media, innovation is going to keep continuously happening. We cannot fight that. I bet on the human being to be able to create and innovate, and I don't bet on the fear of us getting cornered to the point of saying, why don't we pay everybody $1,000 a month and let them have a way of getting their life going for themselves? Because why not 2,000? Why not 5,000? Why not 10,000? Why only 1,000? Why not do more than that? So the solution isn't to give money away. I have 3 kids. I have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And a lot of times, people ask me, what do you teach your kids? I teach my kids how to negotiate. We negotiate all the time. They're expert negotiators, by the way, from the day they're born. But I want them to be better negotiators. And the other thing is earning. If we give away $1,000, we are taking away the gift of people wanting to earn something which they own. And typically when you and I earn our money, we do better than the money that's given to us.
But Patrick, the reality is we don't have to speculate about this because as you point out, there have been experiments that have been done to see when you just give people money, what do? Are they lazier? Do they not want to work? What do they do? And what they found is they invest in themselves. They invest in more education. They invest in their children. So this isn't like, it's just some free giveaway and everybody's going to sit on the couch and eat Cheetos. They actually use that capital, number one, to have options so they're not beholden, to a bad job, a soul-sucking, soul-crushing job, number one. Number two, to be able to create greater human potential and human capacity through their own investments in themselves and their families.
I can tell you, if you gave the 21-year-old Patrick $1,000 a month, what I'd be doing. Very simple, okay? If you gave the 18-year-old Patrick Bet-David $1,000 a month, I can tell exactly what I'd be doing.
But you're using anecdotes, though, when there's data available that says something else.
I'm not. We have data of giving $1,000 a month. Did it work in Alaska? Did it work when they tested in Alaska?
It worked when they tested it in Canada.
So, I think, Patrick, a lot of these things are up for debate. I tend to more fall on your side, whereas I think that if you want to achieve many of the benefits that are touted by UBI advocates, you can just do that through the tax code. You don't necessarily need to just give $1,000 a month. How did this issue come on your radar, though? That's what I'm curious, because it's kind of a fringe thing. And why did you start to become interested in it?
Yeah, because Andrew Yang is an entrepreneur. He puts himself as an entrepreneur. Our audience is filled with, 1.6 million entrepreneurs. And they said, Pat, what do you think about this? And then I did a video on it. But for me, I was born and raised in Iran. Okay, I lived there for 10 years. My mother's side, they believed in communism. When I tell you communism, they swore by Karl Marx. They thought Karl Marx was the most noble, incredible philosophy. And the only reason communism didn't work in Russia is because it was led by wrong people with Stalin and Lenin. But it's a very noble concept. And on my dad's side, they lived in imperialism. This is like complete polar opposites. So the best fights I've seen in my life never happened on TV. It always happened in my household with my mom and dad going at it with their philosophies. Here's the point. My mother said, rich people are greedy, okay? And my dad said, poor people are lazy. And I was absolutely confused for many, many years, okay? So rich people are greedy, poor people are lazy. Well, after eventually getting to work, joining the military, kind of figuring the whole thing out for myself, starting a business and growing it from, one agent to now We got 12,000 insurance agents in 49 different states, and we have 500,000 square feet of office space. We've grown our business nationally. I've watched a lot of people's behaviors, everybody's behaviors. I'll never forget one time, one of my executives who believed in socialism, and he believed in a lot of welfare program. He was all about during the time where Barack Obama was extending the unemployment benefits to 24 months. He's like, we need to have a lot of these social programs because we do need to believe in redistributing wealth. I said, no problem. So here's what happened one day. He got a $20,000 bonus, okay? So I called him up. I said, hey, how you doing? Let's call him Bob. I don't want to say his name, although if he watches this, he'll know who he is. I said, Bob, how you doing? He said, I'm doing great. I said, listen, Bob, I got good news for you and even better news for you. He says, what's that? I said, you just got a $20,000 bonus check. He said, how much? I said, you got a $20,000 bonus check. He's like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I said, but buddy, I took your philosophy on what you just said. You have 20 agents working out of your office. And so what I decided to do is instead of giving you the $20,000, I'm going to give you $1,000 of it. And I'm going to give the other 1,900 to the other 19 agents that you have, because I think we need to redistribute your bonus. And this is the proper thing to do. And I got to tell you guys, like this, without even hesitation. He's like, wait a minute.
Patrick, let me just cut in here, though, because, I mean, look, Andrew Yang is not a Marxist. He's not a communist. He's a tech entrepreneur. And many others in Silicon Valley agree with him about the direction of automation. In fact, there's a lot of research that shows that in places that have lost jobs due to automation, they were far more likely to vote for Donald Trump for president because the economic despair that was wrought caused them to want someone who was going to blow up the system. Even if you believe that ultimately our innovation is going to create new jobs enough for everybody to have, a decent living, which is not the reality we live in now, which is mostly, hope based on history rather than actual provable fact. Even if you believe that transition from the horse to the car, that transition from farming to manufacturing, that transition that's going on right now in the Rust Belt of America is deeply, deeply painful. What Andrew Yang is saying is that in a wealthy country such as ours, where you have for the first time in history the top 400 wealthiest Americans paying less in taxes than the bottom 50% is paying, he's saying there's no excuse why people can't have a basic, dignified living. Not that they're going to get rich, not that we're going to confiscate everybody's wealth and give it out. That people should be able to have a dignified living. That's not Marxism. That's, he would say that's fairness, and it's a recognition of where the market is ultimately heading.
I have a question for you. Define rich. America's rich. Tell me why we're rich. How do you define rich?
We have plenty of money to fund the military.
Really?
We have plenty of money to give tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans and big corporations. Hold on. You asked me a question. Let me answer it, Patrick. We have plenty of money for Amazon to pay zero in taxes. So it's not a matter of whether we could pay it. It's a question of values and what we want to do with that money. That's the question.
But I don't think that answered the question, though. I said define rich. I didn't tell you, let's go spend more money on military or anything else. I just said define what rich means. I don't think America is rich. I think the way, as an advisor, I've been a Series 7 advisor since 2001, day before 9/11. Okay, I got my Series 7, 66, 31, 26 life and health. I've been selling investments, insurance for many, many years. And when you sit down and you do a needs analysis, on a family, if America was a family, okay, if it brings in $3.6, $3.7 trillion a year, and it's $22 trillion in debt, that's like you making $350,000 a year income, but you got $2.2 million of debt. It's like you're making $35,000 of income per year, but you got a $220,000 credit card. That's a lot of debt that we have. That's not something that we ought to sit there.
Perhaps the method of trickle down and cutting the taxes for the rich and the corporations hasn't worked out.
Unfortunately, Patrick, we're going to have to leave it there.
Thank you,
sorry.
Patrick.
I'm sorry we ran out of time, but we loved this debate. I could watch you guys go at it all day. We'll have you back next time.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to have more Rising for you right after this.